according to mainstream science, particularly Neil deGrasse Tyson, we live on a pear-shaped oblate spheroid, and 99% of people in the Western world anyway believe that it's a spinning, rotating globe. I'm not going to use the pear because it doesn't really help much, so I've got an apple. This can be done with an apple or an orange, pineapple, kiwi fruit. A bunch of different fruits have the same, similar kind of format. Like I say to people, all things in nature have a skin or a bark. The fruit never grows on the outside of the skin, it always grows on the inside of the skin. Needless to say, most people think that they live on the top and other people live underneath them on this apple. And it's spinning like this. Now, this video is not for those people because this is way beyond their level of willingness to review reality as we find it. This is for those who already know that the earth is, well, the world that we stand on has a sea level, one body of flat-ish water, tides aside. But I think why I want to make this video, it's a follow-up to the video on Mount Meru and the center of our earth. As I said in that video, we've heard stories, but just like outer space and asteroids, we've never actually seen one other than imagined it. However, we do have a Mount Meru on the equator, or near enough on the equator. What I believe has happened is that, see, on this globe idea, the North Pole is here where the stem is, and the South Pole is at the butt of the apple. And I think it's that same, we know this is not true. However, we accept that there is just like with this fruit, there is a top and a bottom. And just like the electromagnetic torus, energy is running in, out the top, and in the bottom. It may be going both ways, but I think that it's running in here, up through the center of the apple, and then out, so spraying out like that. When people look to the North Star or the Pole Star as being the evidence for there being a center, a Mount Meru at the top, I would suggest that yes, this is the top of the apple, and it's its connection to the tree. So a bit like your body, the crown chakra, the corona, is at the top. However, the heart, the center of your body, is not at the top. It's in here, right? In the torso. So what I'm going to try and demonstrate to you today is where I think we in the Flat Earth Awakening have got it wrong. And by using this apple, and simply by demonstrating how an apple works and how I think it relates to how our material world operates, I'm going to take you on a little journey. First things first, I don't think that it's operating in this alignment. I think that it's operating this way. So side on, like that. And that when we stand on a plane, when we stand on wherever we happen to be on the earth, and we look up at the revolving sky going east to west, what we're seeing is this rotation here. we're standing on the inside of the apple and watching the roof. Imagine the skin now is the roof. The roof is turning like this over us. Yeah? And this may well be the north and this the south. But when I cut it like this, oh, this knife is a little bit. When I cut it like this, and remember, this is how it's turning. In my demonstration, this is how it's turning. Not the floor that we're standing on, but the roof above us and the ether, which is this wetness. That's turning this way. You know, east or west. Every day it does a full rotation like that. So if we take this then, this is the north. If we take this apple then, you see the Taurus, figure of 8. When we take this apple and we consider, well, is this the top of, is this the center? Because remember, I think that you know, Meru is meant to be the center, and when you consider the maps that have been shown to us with the inrushing seas and the land and so on, and the you know, the magnetic mountain, then yes, that would be here. But like this water, the moisture that is the flesh, the magnetic field is occurring in all of this all of the time. You know, you're not away from the magnetic field at any point. It doesn't need, our compasses don't need a rock, a metal rock at the top to point to north. It's simply all of the fruit is aligning itself, all the moisture, everything in here is aligning itself in this way, in a magnetic flow kind of way. But where is the hard rock? Where is the center of this apple? Well, it's right here. This is where the center of the apple is. You see, what we've done, and I've done it myself, is what we've typically done is we've taken the apple and cut it this way through. Yeah. And we've opened it up, and you know, we know that the seed bed is in the center there, but I'm offering to you that Mount Meru is where the seeds are, and that yes, you can travel south and you can travel north along this, but if you want to get to the center, you've got to go to where the seeds are. So that's my theory, and that's, you know, that's how I think it might be actually, you know, our world might be, is that we're walking on a plane like this, and the people I'm going to make this east, you know, the camera may have this back to front, but this would be the east and the place where the sun rises. Imagine that the plane that we're standing on is not moving, but I'm going to roll it over your head, and all of the stars and the sun and the moon are all going to so relativity applies in that depending on where you happen to be, either the north side of this or the south pole of the apple, you will see different stars moving in different ways. And of course, as we know, if you're standing in the south and looking towards the seeds, towards the center, you will see a counterclockwise rotation versus a clockwise rotation if you're looking down from the north to the south. I hope that makes sense. I may have got that a little bit back to front, but you know, definitely I've noticed the moon rolls counterclockwise in the southern plane and clockwise in the northern plane. And this can be explained. It may not be the only answer, but it can be explained by the phenomenon of looking either down that way or that way and having this rotation occur over your head. So this is where relativity comes into play. This is why perhaps when you're this side of the seedbed, you're going to see the pole star here, but not when you're all the way down at this end. It's too far away. The high point of the apple happens to align itself with the seeds. So that's the point where the sun will be at its zenith, at its highest point, at the equinox, and have a shorter circuit up this section and a longer circuit when it's down in this part of the apple, but shorter here. It's a shorter journey for the light to travel through, and this works better with an orange when you consider the segments of the orange and how the electrical pulses that are feeding the orange through the pith. It's my theory that the electrical pulses feeding the orange through the pith are sort of like charges that you can see running and feeding the fruit and giving it life. So it does raise a couple of interesting questions when you cut it open like this. Where does if I'm standing on a plane and the apple is rotating over my head like that, then where does it go? Is it actually physically rolling underneath us, underneath our relativity, our relative floor? Is it actually going underneath the floor that we consider the down under? This is also worth considering, although obviously I can't prove it. But I think it is this, but it's fallen on its side because the tree of life is not aligned in the way that we think. This up and down that we think of is not how the tree of life is actually spraying. The tree of life is lying on its side, almost like a fallen tree, where you would have the root bowl at this end, well, it would be on this side, the root bowl on this side and the canopy on this side. And these are simply expressing the flow lines of the tree of life. So obviously that's going underneath, and coming back in around to create this oblate ball, if you like. And the ball, or the tree rather, has been cut through, and that's where we stand. Because if you were making a table, you would make it from lengths of the tree. You wouldn't take a tree and cut it like this in order to make a table. You would lay the tree down on its side and you would cut it through. But it would still be turning and rolling, just like I described with the apple. It would still be rolling. The sky would be rolling, the energy, the electrical flow lines would still be turning like this and rolling over our heads whilst we stood on a unmoving, as far as we can detect, an unmoving plate. And that's where we live, on this unmoving plate, this tree of life. But the tree of life is not standing like you're often normally are shown. The tree of life has fallen on its side. Like the infinity 8, instead of the 8 that's up and down, it's lying on its side. That's my thesis. And go back and look at my video on Mount Meru. Perhaps I was being a little bit unfair or unkind to the school of thought and the guys who are caught up with the school of thought that says Mount Meru is here. These are friends of mine, and we're all, I think, honestly searching for the truth about what's going on here and the nature of our reality. But there is a Mount Meru just about here on our earth, and the Meru people, they have this ancient story that seems to kind of depict our world, or rather the beginnings of our world. And Mount Meru is an impressive 3,500 meter high black caldera. It's pretty impressive. It's right next to Kilimanjaro, and not there. And I think one of the things to add about it is that, this would be, I guess, what we would consider to be ice ring, a barrier, a boundary that we cannot leave. The skin, you cannot leave the skin of the apple. Yes, this may be some kind of way out of the apple through the stem, but I'm not convinced that we are supposed to leave. So I do encourage people to try, and by all means, if they can. But if we were meant to make this journey, to the heart, earth, heart, center, then I would suggest that our Creator, whether that's us or some other benevolent entity, would have made it viable for us to go there. It's just our governments that have made it really difficult. And I know there's the Antarctic Treaty and so on, but really, if you look at the natural environment, there's nothing habitable, as far as I can tell, about this area here. Which I think is, if you had to turn this into the Earth, then I think this might be Scandinavia, and this might be Canada. This might be Canada, and this might be Siberia. I can't honestly answer how, and this would be South America. This is Africa. South Africa, Cape Town, which it's not a long sail to get from Cape Town to the Antarctic region. This would be New Zealand. Over here, the knife is not very clear in this, but this would be New Zealand. How do all flights and other things work in this Apple setup? I'm not absolutely sure, but it's not a million miles away. If you had to take an AE map or the United Nations map and put that on here, it's not, it's not a stretch to see how that might work. And how that gives us these sort of icy cold areas in Northern Europe, which isn't very high, by the way. Scandinavia is only 65 degrees north. So that's it. I think that Mount Meru may actually be here, and the seeds have pushed their way out, and they are these giant rocks. And in fact, Kilimanjaro happens to be the biggest freestanding rock on Earth, and then right next to it is Mount Meru. It's there to be seen on Google Maps, and if our Creator wanted us to go there, then why not create a place that is habitable, and a place that humans would be able to reach. When the stories go about there being these inrushing seas and 4 great rivers and so on, well, actually when you study the Lake Victoria nearby, and that the Nile runs from Lake Victoria, and there are other big bodies of water, really big bodies of water that run down into Zimbabwe, and there is the possibility that cataclysms have changed the nature of some of those bodies of water that may have been there. Maybe some rivers are no longer as impressive as they once were, but it has the hallmarks of a place where that could match some of the tales that we've heard about Mount Meru. So let me know what you think in the comments. And I think that it's possible to visit this Mount Meru without, obviously there's visas and so on, but it's possible for us to pretty much turn up as we are and go there. Whereas the guys who want to go into the deepest tundras of, what we believe to be the North Pole, and by the way, I mean Scandinavia, the North Norway and so on, they are already extremely difficult to get to, and as I said, you're only at 65 degrees north. You've still got another 25 degrees of, seemingly impassable conditions and difficult oceans and so on. You could say that may be because it's meant to be hard for us to get there, but I don't think our Creator would have made it like that. I think it would have been like, no, this is somewhere you could take a pilgrimage to without waiting for snowmobiles and incredible clothing and logistics which are required for any sort of northern or southern expedition. Here we also have the Serengeti. We have the most diverse, most rich environment on Earth. I'm going to add one more thing, that is it possible that there's more than one apple and that we actually already travel between apples without even realizing it, and that on other continents there are similar kind of setups, and at some point in our distant past the barriers between these different apples became thinner. You see it with trees actually, that branches can kind of grow and merge with themselves, and so it is possible that our apple, the Central African apple, has merged with other apples, and why it may be that people from different apples look different. Again, just that's a really that's just a postulation, but it's not the key theme. What I'm trying to drive home here is that in this setup with a rotating Earth, and and this is still the equator. Just like if you took this apple and you equated it like that, that would still be the equator. And so if I cut that through, that's still my equator line. Yeah. But that's the cross right there, and that's the center right there. So you still got your equator, still got the southern section of it and the northern section of it, but that would be the center of it right there. Peace out.